Hey guys, welcome to the Hey DJ Show. I'm your host, DJ Jimenez. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more content. You could also get this podcast on the go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. And do consider following me on every social media platform. With all that boring stuff out of the way, I'm happy to introduce my next guest, Michael Donisi Sr. Mr. Donisi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man.
All right. Well, hey, like I said before, thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I was mentioning before, I had this idea where I want to interview multiple dads, just like I did last month with mothers, interviewing a first-time dad with multiple kids, and a grandfather. And now you are a new grandfather. Is that correct?
I am.
Yeah.
I sure am.
And you're a father. Obviously, you have to be. So, my first question is going to be just really generic. What's it like being a father / grandfather?
Oh, being a father's been real rewarding. Ever since our son was born. A lot of challenges and everything, but still, it's been kind of effortless.
Yeah.
To raise a child. Once you decide to do it, and you get your ducks in a row, it's easy to do. But it's a joy to have a child, to watch them grow.
Yeah.
And as far as a grandchild goes, that's even more of a joy because you don't have to take care of them. But we keep our grandchild. He's got a daughter, and we keep her sometimes on weekends just for to watch her. And it's just a joy to watch them grow, because that's a part that I kind of missed when my son was growing up because I was working so much, and I wasn't there to watch his little brain evolve and his motor skills and things like that, learning to walk and everything. I mean, I'd catch a little bit of it, but not like I'm noticing.
Yeah, but you were a
now.
busy guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but being a father is just feeling like I've actually accomplished something to pass on what I am, if nothing else. I, haven't written the great American novel or anything like that, so I won't be famous for that or painted a great masterpiece. But I've got my son and my grandchild, and it's a good thing, man.
Dude, that's awesome. And I know your son, and and I've grew up with him, and yeah, you've been like a second father to me. So
cool.
Yeah, no, and one question I had, if it's too personal, you don't have to answer it, is you only had one son. Is there a reason why you guys stopped at one child?
Actually, that was a conscious thing.
Really?
We decided that. We had Junior. We had him a little late in life because we didn't get married until we were in our 30s. And so Tammy and I just looked at each other one day and came to realization that, okay, we're done. So, because we did discuss it. Yeah. But we couldn't see the point of, having child after child after child.
Yeah.
My grandmother, they were Italian immigrants, and
big family.
She had 16. Yeah. 16 kids. I mean, grandma, I don't think she ever got off her back. So, and that's just insane. Back then you could do it, I guess.
Yeah.
But nowadays, no, you can't.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, we're going to raise him. We want to get that out of the way first to make sure we know what we're doing and raise him pretty well and take care of him and with no distractions.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And
no, and obviously if he was here, I still rip on him, but because he's not here, I'm going to compliment him. Is you raised a great kid.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah, and obviously he's one of my best friends. I consider him my brother. So yeah, but no, you did. Obviously, not just saying that, you really did do a good job. And hanging out and growing up with him, I could tell that that you were a great father, because I can't tell you how many times whenever he would come over to my place, he would say, "Oh, my dad taught me this new thing," or "Oh, my dad knew this, and I know this because my dad told me about it."
Wow.
So you knew a lot, and I think that's really cool that you're literally that a textbook definition of a father. How you've learned, and now the greatest gift is being able to pass it down.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. I mean, um, our our family goes back. My mother was a teacher. Her mother was a teacher. I taught for a while, and
Oh, did you really?
yeah,
Oh, wow. I'm
university.
learning new things now.
Yeah, but and because of that, we feel we've got to impart this knowledge, or at least I did,
Yeah.
to my son and teach him everything I could. Simple survival, tell him, show him not to stick his finger in the fan so he didn't cut it off. He's still going to do it anyway. Things like that, when they're
Yeah.
little. Um, how not to walk backwards when you're in the woods and somebody's chasing you or something, or in a haunted house or something.
Yeah.
Just simple stuff like that. And because our society is tough.
Hmm.
And you have to learn a whole new, different bunch of social skills to survive in it. And it's even more so nowadays than
Yeah.
when we were raising him. So it's very important. But I think that's the biggest role of being a father, is to provide that. Besides when they're little, just taking care of their biological needs.
Yeah.
But is teaching them what you can. And if you have traditions, you come from a rather heavy ethnic background,
Hmm.
to where I'm sure you've got many traditions and things in the family.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we did too, as Italians, that we incorporate into his life. He doesn't have to do them, but
But it's like a good foundation.
exactly,
Something to
yeah,
start
it is.
with.
It is, and to know that he'll carry on that tradition if nothing else.
Yeah.
So,
So that actually leads me to a good segue to this other future question is, I wrote it kind of being silly, but at the same time, I do think there's some weight to it. Is there any technology out there that maybe you're at like Walmart or something, and you're like, man, that would have been nice back in my day while raising Junior or something, like, or is like old school honestly some of the best things?
well, I think you got a point there. Most of the technology, in my opinion, is more detrimental than helpful. Um, I'll give you a few examples. Now there are some good things out there.
Yeah.
Baby monitors,
Hmm.
okay, that you can watch the child if you're doing something remotely somewhere else in the house. Uh, I think one of the greatest inventions they ever came up with was the child leash. That little thing. And I'll tell you why. Because when Junior was just a toddler,
Hmm.
and we took him to the mall, we were living in Columbus, Georgia at the time, and we took him to the mall, and it was 2 seconds. We were talking with some people we knew. It was 2, 3 seconds, and both of us took our eyes off him. And we turned around, he was gone.
Oh no.
And boy, you talk about panic. I mean, it just grabbed us, and we were frantic. We thought, oh my God, somebody snatched him.
Yeah.
Well, he was hiding in the rack of the gymboree over there behind the clothes, laughing at us at the time. But after that, we got him one of those little leashes because it said, well, that's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
Now, we got some looks from people
Yeah.
because you put that thing on them and,
I mean, I'll admit, yeah, there's some jokes about it.
you
Yeah.
start getting this. It was about that time that you started seeing this crazy revolution in our social structure
Yeah.
that said, no, you don't treat children that way, like dogs or whatever. No, you keep them safe.
Mhm.
And that little thing kept him safe because
Yeah.
it kept him from running away or somebody snatching him. But as far as today, I don't know. They're just, and this applies more to older children, really, but social media
Mm.
platforms, tools, things like that, distractions, cell phones while they're driving,
Oh,
things
man,
that are
yeah.
just dangerous for adults,
Yeah.
much less for kids. Yeah, I think that kind of technology, I'm glad it wasn't around back then. I mean, Man, when we were growing up, my brothers and I this was in the '60s. Uh, we had toy guns, and we went out in the cornfield behind our house and played army. And
Mm-hmm.
we played out there in that cornfield, running around and chasing each other until we were worn out and we
Mm-hmm.
would collapse inside the house. And nowadays, you see them burying themselves for hours in front of a computer screen or one thing or
Yeah.
another, playing games and the like. And so I'm not sure. I don't know the studies that have been done on that, but it doesn't seem too healthy for me.
No.
To me, um,
Like I saw something talking about like it's almost a trade-off, but you have to ask yourself as an individual like what's if it's worth it. Uh how adults now like how most jobs are integrating with technology, and some adults are like slow to pick it up,
yeah,
but now kids young are, they know how to operate an iPad like with efficiency at like 6 years old. So somebody's talking about like, oh, it's a trade-off, but I'm still to your point, because I was a 90s kid, and I feel like that was like one of the last points where we still got to enjoy the outside world, still had a
exactly.
childhood, and then technology boomed, and rapidly too. So I can still remember what it was like to, go outside and play kickball and run
Sure.
around, and then have your mom and dad say, "All right, the streets lights are on. You need to come home."
Or learning to use a map and a compass to find your way around.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you don't have a GPS, you're lost.
Yeah.
So your batteries go dead. You're stuck without your GPS. Um, and it doesn't take a genius to learn how to look at constellations and figure out where you are, some part of the world. Um, so I think in that respect, technology has dumbed us down and made
Mhm.
us too reliant on it. And I think that's a shame because as human beings, I really think it kind of puts us in peril. And I'd prefer that my child rely on the more basic methods.
Yeah.
But that's up to him and what he teaches.
No, and I think that's good. I think it's good, especially for younger parents or somebody who's about to become a parent to know that, yeah, there are these fancy gadgets and stuff, besides the baby monitor that
Mhm.
you mentioned, uh, that really nothing beats old school. Like to uh, you can't replace caring for a child with some technology, but yeah. Like I saw this one fancy crib, like just really randomly how like, oh, like you could download music into it, like soothing
You're
music.
kidding, really?
No, it's a real thing, and like how now they're trying to make cribs high tech, and I'm like, does it need to be? Like it's a crib. Like I'm pretty sure the baby's like, oh, you got this cheap old wooden crib. Like I need the latest technology, the iCrib.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is. And I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know the answer to it, why people feel they need to go there. That everything needs to be so goof proof because it's not. You know, especially electronics and things like that. We know how they can malfunction.
Yeah.
Uh, so
And I like how you mentioned about the leash. How it was at the time. Was it basically new? Like
it had
at
been around for a little bit,
okay,
but it wasn't really mainstream because I
okay,
think a lot of people felt it was a little perhaps cruel or
yeah.
it didn't look right. That's what it didn't look right.
Somebody
So
said that like being a parent, like this comedian, he made a joke about like, as my role as a father is a preventer. Like my kids are on 24/7 trying to commit suicide. Basically, they're like, and my job is simply just to
prevent it.
I'm the child proof. And so when I think about that, and yeah, I'll admit I did see Child Leash. Like, oh wow, that's cruel and stuff. But I was young, and I just thought that was
Mhm.
funny because my parents never did that to me. But now I realize, no, I could have hurt myself. Like maybe I should have had it because I was a climber. I just wanted to climb everything, and so thank God I never got hurt. But now that I see that, if I become a dad, it's like, it's not a little far-fetched. I might want to get a leash.
Well, talking about that, we get back to where, as I was talking about being a child running through the cornfield. The other thing we did a lot was when a new house was being built, we would go to the construction site and lob dirt clods, which oftentimes were full of rocks, at each other.
Oh, wow.
That's insane. But,
I threw pine cones as a kid, so yeah.
Pine cones, and we'd hit each other, and it would hurt.
Yeah.
But our parents were. That was back then. Parents is still. My father, if I got out of line, I was across his knee, and he had a belt, and he was whapping me on the butt, and the neighbor would just be over there saying, that Donisi kid did something again. Wasn't anybody calling the police or anything like that.
No.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that times have changed, and, we can't go back and look at that and say that was awful. That was a form of discipline.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes you need a little bit of that to get the point across.
Yeah. I was talking to Mrs. Donisi about that, and we were diving in, and I was saying there was this joke about like, oh, I got whipped as a kid, so now I suffer from self-respect and discipline, and it's true. Like, and I was talking about how there were moments where like, and I'm pretty sure if you've had this, where the especially the son is more afraid of the father, so all the mom had to say if the dad wasn't at home at the time, it was like, oh, just wait till your dad gets home. Yeah, wait till your dad gets home. And when my mom would say that, I would shut up. I would stop doing what I was doing and behave. But it's a degree, like just like I think with law, like how if you do something like shoplift, you don't get like the death penalty or anything. It's a degree. So as a child, I remember for me, like if I yelled at my parents, they would kind of like yell back. But then if I did something really, really bad like shoplift and I got caught, they would whip me. And
Sure.
and then it was like, okay, they have to let me know, like, okay,
that's wrong.
It's wrong.
You
can't
do it.
Don't do that. And then like that fear, that's the worst thing as a kid, was getting whipped. So you need that extreme level of like, okay, if I do this extreme bad, this extreme consequence will happen. And I don't know, like, I mean, again, I'm not saying like that people should beat their kids. I'm just telling what happened to me, and obviously whoever I end up with, I would talk to them about it. Like, it's a real thing that needs to be on the table.
Sure does.
Yeah, I know. Parenting, there's several. Again, I'm not a parent, but I know that it's a team effort. You're talking to you and the wife and say like, okay, how should we go about the worst cases scenarios? Yeah.
Yeah. Be judicious about it. But yeah, I mean, you have to. But that punishment component has to be there.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you can't just let the child go unchecked. Otherwise, you'll have the cats and dogs in the neighborhood start disappearing and things like that, and then you got to wonder, what went wrong, or who went wrong, or what.
Oh man, it's a real thing,
and that's going to happen. I bet no matter how well you raise a kid, there are some people that are just. It's going to turn out that way. It's genetics, but
oh man, it's just a scary thought. Like, obviously, especially new parents are like, oh, it's not going to be my kid. It's a scary thing. Yeah. Oh man, that took a dark turn, but I love it. So, with the way you raised Junior, and you coming from a big Italian family, and tradition is big in your family as well. Did you have that mindset where, all right, I'm going to raise Junior the way I was raised? The way I was raised was correct, or, the way I was raised was fine, but I'm going to improve on this and pass it down?
Basically, it was the way that I wanted to raise him.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. My educational background, I was an anthropologist.
Yeah.
So I was raised a devout Catholic, okay, because my father was. And my mother was not, but at the time the church required that they raise us Catholic
Mm-hmm.
so that he wouldn't be excommunicated, my father. So I was raised a Catholic, but I was never a Catholic. Okay. I went to a parochial school, and that was for the benefit of the education because I got a very good one
Mm-hmm.
at the school that I went to. But so religion to me is something I've looked at forward and backwards. I am a spiritual person, but it is my own spirituality.
Yeah.
I will not force that on anybody, and so I did not indoctrinate my son to any prescribed religion. I don't believe that any religion that has a strong dogma has the answers. I think it's probably further afield than any other.
Mm-hmm.
So that is probably the only thing I did not really delve into and teach him. Now, I don't know if he's ever talked to you about any religious matters or beliefs or anything, but he never has with me, and I never have with him. I've just always told him that's something you have to decide for yourself. So, but you know, a lot of parents today feel they have to, because if they firmly believe in their faith, it's important that their child do as well.
Yeah.
So I just don't hold that view. Other than that, everything that I've taught him, I thought was something he needed to know.
Yeah.
Or at least be fun to know.
The survival skills and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
Things that, I mean, no offense to, the religious community and stuff, but like things that you think he's going to more often use than not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think, I mean, I hate to be like vague about it, but like, I think there's like a good and bad, there's a good, healthy way to raise a child, like to try to bring them onto your religion and tell them like, oh, why you follow it, why you believe it, and why you think, as a family, it's like, oh, we should do it as a family.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the unhealthy way, but then again, like that's cop out. You could say that with like sports or anything, like
anything.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but I like your answer. I like that. It's especially because I do think, especially with religion, that it's a very powerful thing. But I think it's more powerful because like I'm spiritual in that sense where but I had to find it for myself. If somebody told me about it, I'm like, whatever. I had to find that for myself. So I like that. You have that for yourself, but passing that down to your son, it's like, hey, you kind of have to find this.
Well,
for
it's
yourself.
just a very personal thing because it's nothing concrete. It's not something that you can say, look, here it is. Like the old throwback. Well, it's written that. That's no, that doesn't hold water. So it's something that through personal experience they have to live through and experience and believe and trust or whatever. And so, yeah, that's one thing we've stayed away from. And that was a conscious effort that we did that. But everything else, the wife and I never really got together and decide what he was, what we were going to do. We would just take his interest and everything, well, like his taekwondo interest, and nurture it and let him do it. I mean, he wanted to play baseball for a while, so he did, got bored with it. And, I understand that. I mean, I was the same way, athletic activities when I was younger. So that's all we did was just encourage whatever he wanted to, as long as it wasn't likely to kill him or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. So now that you're a grandfather too, and now that your only son now has a daughter, are you, trying to reinforce some of the stuff like that maybe he didn't, kind of catch on being raised at? It's like, hey, now that you're a father, here's some like fatherly advice, not just, oh, hey, I'm your father and you're my son. Here's these things because I love you. Now it's, no, here are these things. I'm talking to you not as my son, but as a father. I
do give him some counsel, but whether he takes it up or not,
it's on him. Yeah,
that's solely up to him. I'm not going to interfere with the way he raises a child, unless he gets stupid with it. I don't think it's Junior, he's well past worrying about right now. I mean, he's got a career going,
Yeah.
and he's doing well. He's got a good family and everything, and so we don't worry about him anymore. We're more concerned about our retirement. Um, but we do enjoy the grandchild,
Yeah.
and he'll know what it's like when she gets older and she
Yeah.
becomes a teenager and starts dating. I mean, all we ever had was just one dick to worry about. Now, he's going to have a bunch of them to worry about. So he's going to have to be prepared for it. Is all I can say.
Yeah.
And I don't know, raising a girl, I don't know how different.
Yeah,
that
you had a
could
son,
be,
so
but I think it's either or. About
yeah.
the same.
Yeah. I was joking with Alyssa when I was interviewing her about how she had a talk with Michael saying, "Hey, now when she was pregnant, and saying that, oh, when Olivia comes to this world, your life's gonna change and all that stuff. You're not gonna be playing video games as much." And she jokes saying that no, he still has his regular life, like because Olivia's so chill. She's just, you know, well behaved in her little, like mobile or whatever.
But it does change, DJ.
It does change.
You can't deny it, because you start seeing how you are willing to give up all kinds of things that you just found fun or you just enjoyed, or one thing or another, for the sake of the child. You would look at it and say, I don't need that. The little baby needs a stupid little rattle or something like that. So it does have an effect. It does change you dramatically.
Yeah.
At least it did me.
So with that being said, and how you talked about earlier that you and the missus, you guys had Michael in your 30s, a little bit later. When did you know you guys wanted to be parents? Was there a moment in your life that you were just like, kids are fine, but I don't think I'm gonna be a dad? But then that moment hit you where you looked at your wife and said, yeah, let's have a kid.
There was a time that we were discussing the future, and we looked at our situation financially, and we were in pretty good shape, and we were moving to Columbus, Georgia, and we were looking at a house and everything, and we realized that at our age, it was about time to do it. We could financially afford to do it. Everything was pretty stable, and if we were going to have a child, we needed to do it now, because I'm 65 right now, and I've just now got a granddaughter. It's not even a year old, so I didn't want to be the guy that was 85 and have a 25-year-old kid or something like that, where I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So we kind of decided, well, if we're going to have a child, we need to have it now. While we can afford it, while we're comfortable with life, each other, and everything else in our future. And so that was it. I couldn't tell you what year that was. I guess it was it had to be 91.
Yeah.
So 1991.
That was the year my brother was born.
Yeah.
Man, I'll the reason why I say that too is because like I'm 28 now, and for the longest time I didn't want kids. And obviously I heard that whole thing where people were like, "Oh, you say that now," and I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure." And I was very consistent up until, honestly, there were a lot of factors that changed my mind, but one of the biggest factors was COVID, like that initial lockdown. And I'm an extrovert, like I like hanging out with people, I like going out and all that stuff. And being stuck inside in the very beginning of it, and it was just miserable. And then like loneliness just, kind of hit. And I would go on social media and I would see, families that were affected, and they all said the same thing. None of them knew each other, but they were like, thank God I have my family and stuff.
Right.
And a part of me was like, that's what I'm missing. Like, and there was other factors too, but that made me realize, like, yeah, I want that. I want a team. And yeah, and so slowly and surely, not overnight, but then I realized, okay, yeah, I think I want to be a dad. but for the longest time I didn't want to be, because somebody told me this, and it just scared the shit out of me. Was whether you like it or not, whether good and bad, your kid is going to view the world the way you raise him or her, something like that. And I was a part of it. And then they said like a parent is the ultimate teacher, and it just,
Absolutely.
yeah, and it scared me, because also because I didn't think of myself as a teacher or anything. And granted, I was young, but I started thinking about that. I was like, man, who am I to, teach somebody like right and wrong? And then obviously when you're in that mindset, you think about all the bad stuff you've done. So you're like, oh, who am I to raise them? And so like again, I was young and I was just stupid, and it just snowballed into before COVID, just going like, no, you know what? Kids are great. I'll be that great uncle, but I don't want to have a kid. But now I'm like, nah, screw that. I want a kid.
Well, that's good, man. That's a good thing. I mean, because family is everything.
Yeah.
And you get to be my age, and the only ones that are left are the ones in my generation, in my family.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the younger generation. But all our parents are gone on both sides of our family. Our uncles are all gone. My brothers and sister will probably be gone pretty soon, and there I will be.
Yeah.
So, family's what you got, and
Yeah.
the family that's carrying your mantle, so to speak. That's a joy. It's a joy to see that you've been a part of it too,
Yeah.
that you've raised it, and some part of DJ is going to carry on there because you did that. You did have a
Yeah.
child.
Man, it was a real thing that scared me, but now, yeah, I see it as a challenge, and uh one that like that the more I think about it, the more excited I get, because even though like I made the decision to go back to school and to start this podcast, yeah, like they give me joy, but then when I'm thinking about like, oh, I would like to be a dad, but in order to be a dad, you got to meet the one, and in order to meet the one, you got to be the best individual yourself. So you got to work on yourself, and then also if you want to be a good dad, again, you still have to work on yourself. And yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but overall, the more you think about it, the more you want that, the more you have to work on yourself and realize that, all right, I'm flawed. I need to be better. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, I do need to go to school. I do need to get a better job. I do need to be a better individual.
Well, it's good. You're preparing yourself. You're
Yeah.
preparing for that eventuality and preparing yourself in a way you think you need to, and that's what's important. I mean, um, you want to go into it and you want to be comfortable going into it. So, yeah, first you got to find somebody that wants to have your kid.
Yeah. That's the hardest part, but slightly easier now with dating apps.
Jeez, man, I'll tell you what, buddy. I am glad I don't have to go. I couldn't do that.
My
I
old
do it
roommate.
the old way. You just go out to a bar and you look around and, buy
I feel
them
like
a
people are
drink
still
or
doing that.
something. But I couldn't. That computer stuff, no way.
No.
I mean,
Now they have Tinder where it's like, oh, you look good in your picture, let's meet. No,
nah.
yeah. And no, my old roommate was talking about that, and he would do the dating app, and I would poke fun, and he was just like, man, dating is just freaking hard nowadays. And I'm like, yeah. At the time, I was dating somebody, so I was like, oh, hopefully I don't have to go through that again. And I'm like, now I'm laughing. So we kind of talked about it a little bit, but so if you had to like simplify it, but give a long answer if you can, it doesn't matter. What's the role of a father? Like, I know it's like kind of generic, but it's like, something standard issue where, all right, listen, you're gonna raise your kid however you want to raise, but the role of the father is blank.
That's difficult because it
Yeah.
all comes down to the culture.
Yeah.
Okay, because they vary. They vary so much. Even our Western civilized culture, what we call American culture, if you will, is full of subcultures. So that differs. I think what it comes down to is that male or female, the child is to be taught or shown a particular role that needs to be filled to get along in the society, to become a part of that society. And if it's a male, usually the father would show them how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this in cultures, rites of passage. When a boy reaches puberty or whatever, they do all kinds of crazy things, and I won't get into it now. Some of them are a little disturbing, but I give an example in our culture because when I was at University of Alabama, I grew up in Ohio, so I transplanted to the South. Now, this was in 1979. And a curious thing that I didn't know existed, but when children, especially males, when they would hunt and shoot their first buck, it was celebrated. And it was celebrated in the newspaper.
Oh, really?
Tuscaloosa Picayune or whatever it was called. But they would have a 3 or 4 page fold out of kids about 7, 8, 9 years old that killed their first buck. And it would show them sitting there holding the horns of the deer with their rifle and a big smile on their face and their dad right behind them. And that was a celebration. That was to show that the kid basically passed muster and became a man. And 1979 wasn't that long ago. And I'm sure it wasn't peculiar just to Alabama. I'm sure there are a lot of places in the South in particular, but probably up north too, where hunting was exactly that. It was a sign to show that you were ready to the task, bring meat to the table and things like that. And that's your tradition. Now, you didn't have to. I mean, you didn't have to go out and kill the deer to feed the family.
Yeah.
But that was the idea. That was your role, especially as a male. Females, same thing. Provide with the family with food, et cetera, have children, things like that. Now, these things, I know in our modern society might not sound politically correct.
Yeah, who cares?
But that's
my show is not going to be politically correct.
Crazy, you know. So it is what it is. And so I think that's the role of the parent. There is and that's pretty universal too. It's to teach the kid what they need to do to survive. Because in a lot of other cultures too, the family stays together. It becomes an extended family. The children don't run off and get married and have other children somewhere else in the country for the most part. Of course, they usually stay around and work with the elders. So, I think that's it. I think that's a basic function of a parent. In our society, it's twisted around a little bit because of what we are, the sophistication, the civilization. It's getting weirder every day, but the nurturing of the child and all of this and that, educating them, it's a lot more complicated, and I'm not sure that it's not something that parents. I'm not sure our society wants them to do it, which is really getting scary. Well, the government starts saying, "Well, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy nut, but you know what I'm talking about." The government starts saying, "No, it's okay. We'll raise your kids."
Yeah, no,
I don't think so.
No, it's funny because the more I think about that, the more I really do see it where how family is so important. So I'll give it like really small example is that I have several friends, and there's nothing wrong per se with daycares and stuff. I understand, but I see how important it is to have your extended family, like you said, especially with Michael being a new dad. And you guys being able to take care of Olivia every now and then, that they don't have to worry about something as like daycare.
Absolutely. And buddy, believe me, that scares me is thinking about daycare because of the issues that we have with, people.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And, to put your small child in
the care of somebody else. And we're not even talking about money at this point. Like daycare is expensive. I have a good friend of mine. She tells me all the time, like, oh, I have to pay like $300 a week. And I'm like, don't you mean a month? She was like, no, a week. And I'm like, that's $1,200 a month. Like, oh no. And so I see just from the financial part of it, we're not even talking about the social part about it,
Right.
because like, especially whether like, say you're a religious family and the person taking care is an atheist, versus and flip flop around, say you're an atheist and the person taking care is religious, and you're like anti both sides, whatever. Like, you don't want your kid being raised by somebody that you don't agree with,
Right.
kind of. Yeah, so it's weird, and it's a scary thing, and it's a real thing. And so I think you hit the nail on the head with that. um uh and also, going back to the how it used to be celebrated. What was it, Ohio or Alabama, with the
Alabama.
Alabama?
Yeah.
So when I think about stuff like that, I I mean, I don't know if that's still a thing in Alabama, but we're here in Georgia. I don't even know. I never heard of that. Like, oh, hey, it'd be on the local newspaper. We don't even do stuff like that
Well, keep in
nowadays.
mind now that was some time back, but you're right. I
That's
mean, I was
true.
surprised when I saw it, and
Yeah,
that was
because
back then. So
like, I mean, there's so many jokes about it that comedians make about how, the mother is appreciated more than the father and stuff. But yeah, you don't even hear about things like that where, this, like, I don't know, bonding activity where you rite of passage kind of stuff,
right.
and how, and I'm not even talking about like necessarily hunting. That's just one example, but I have a friend, growing up with him, he would talk about, I mean, they didn't hunt, but his dad was a mechanic, and he taught, my buddy all about a car, and they would fix it up. And now he's proud of that. He knows, like, oh, I never have to take my car somewhere to
We
get an
should
oil
be.
change. I do that
Yeah.
myself. And I think about these little trinkets that, are passed down, and things like that, a rite of passage. And but like how, he's proud to have that skill, but you don't hear about it in a local newspaper. It's not celebrated anymore, and not that it needs to be, but at the same time, you could tell that there's some pride in that,
Hmm.
that I feel like it's missing from the world. That, if basically what I'm trying to get at is, if we had something like that, I think more people would be excited to be a father. And and you would cut down stuff like, single mother rate, about like, oh man, yeah, I want to pass that down to my kid and be a good role model. I don't know. I could go on and on, but
Oh yeah.
yeah. But no, when you said that, like, oh, local newspaper, I'm like, that's a thing. That sounds awesome.
It was interesting. And you could see it in the kids' faces too. It wasn't the fathers for that
Yeah,
matter. I mean, man, they'd be smiling, holding up a dead deer. It was pretty cool.
and it's like, the more I think about it, the more I'm glad I'm here. And I mean, I never done any of hunting and stuff, as a young person, and I did fish a little bit, but I'm so excited about these outdoor activities, that if I have a kid, I want to be, healthy enough to be able to do all that stuff. And I can see the importance of it too,
Mhm.
especially going back to, getting away from technology and all that stuff. Now, I don't know how to read a compass or a map, but now knowing that flaw, I'm like, okay, I want to learn, so I can pass that down too. But uh, yeah, like, I want to do, these outdoor activities like hunting and fishing, and because I not only is it cool, but I see the importance of it as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's even more enjoyable when you got a little you
And
next to
they
you.
enjoy it as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a bonding
Watching
thing.
them enjoy it. Yeah. You
Yeah,
learn the skills and everything. Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of satisfaction you get from it. So,
Yeah. So, with that, my next question. So how? Because you mentioned this a little bit earlier. So how should a father go about, bonding with their child? Now, uh, you didn't push anything on Michael. You just wanted to, like,
encouraging.
encourage him
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, uh, like, he did taekwondo and stuff like that, and but uh, how I'm just repeating myself. How should a father go about bonding with their child?
Uh, I don't think it's something that you should have to discern completely. That you have to give it a lot of thought about what you're doing. I think it's something that really becomes kind of natural. If you have an interest in something, encourage your child to have that interest as well. If they
Mhm.
don't, they don't. But if they do, there's certain satisfaction gained from doing the activity together. And that is the bonding in of itself,
Yeah.
because they'll spend time with you, they'll learn skills, especially if they're enjoying what they're doing. So, like fishing, for instance, I mean, that can be really boring. But if you go out and have a good time, you're enjoying it, and you've got your child, and you're showing them how to do it, they can enjoy it. So that's simple bonding, and just trying to set the best example that you can for them. Don't do stupid stuff. Don't try to. Uh, if you're driving, don't try to drive around in traffic and make a goof of yourself, where you're
Hmm.
going to kill somebody or yourself or the child. But bonding, it's something that I think if you just spend enough time with the child, will occur regardless. It's not something you have to think about,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I mean, is there anything like specifically where, once, Michael's at that age where, all right, let's try to get him into sports and stuff. Like how did you guys find Taekwondo slash like, oh, we tried to do baseball, but he didn't enjoy
He
it. So
did. He found it. Um, he was in, I don't know if they call it t-ball or whatever,
hmm
and then he went on to the little league thing, but he was losing interest in it, and my wife and he were going somewhere. I think she was taking him.
yeah, real quick, you mind putting the microphone
Oh,
closer
I'm
to you?
sorry.
No, you can pull it towards you.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
they were going somewhere, and I'm not sure exactly where it was, but they went by a taekwondo school,
Hmm.
and he saw it, and he told her, he says, "I think I'd like to try that," and that was it. So we talked about it, and she goes, "Well, I think he might like it because he's getting tired of baseball," and so yeah, we enrolled him. And then several years later, he's a fifth degree black belt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was something he just got into, and we encouraged it after we saw how much he enjoyed it
Yeah.
and everything, and how much he put his heart into it, and we just encouraged it. So,
Nice.
um, but it was always up to him. He was the
Yeah.
one that would initiate. And riding a bicycle, you realize that kid never rode a bicycle until we moved here in Ackworth.
And oh, really?
Yeah, and he was 8, 9 years old, and he got cowed into it because the neighborhood kids were kind of laughing at him because he wouldn't ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
So we got him a bicycle. We took the training wheels off it and said, "Well, go ahead and try it." I didn't put him on it and do that deal like throw him in a pool to learn to swim. But he got on it, and within 2 days, he was zipping around the neighborhood on that bicycle.
Nice.
All the way up to that time, he'd been afraid because he was afraid he was going to fall over and skin his knee or something.
Hmm.
So when he set his mind to doing something, we just encourage it, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started riding bike early because my dad's a cyclist, and so that was a bonding thing that he tried to instill to me and my brother growing up. I think I was 5 years old. I can't remember. Like he was just so excited when he got.
I didn't know that. I didn't know your dad did all that.
Oh yeah, he's a crazy cyclist. There's this organization called Bragg Bike Ride Across Georgia, where it's a week long, and it's like from city to city that you're traveling, and on average each city is like 40 miles, so he's riding his bike for 40 miles a day,
Wow.
and sometimes even more, sometimes less, but it's on average like 40 miles. And at the end they'll give you a keychain, uh, totaling all the miles you did, and it's crazy. And so no, my dad loves cyclists. He loves watching Tour de France and all that stuff. So he was super excited when he got my brother and I bicycles, and then got really sad when we were just like, it's not our thing. But now I'm getting back into it, and yeah. But no, he still rides into his age. He's in great shape for a guy at his age, and but yeah, I could see that. So he, you didn't push Michael into Taekwondo, like you weren't a martial artist
No.
and stuff. So, and then my dad, being a cyclist, he tried to like not try to get us to be professional cyclists, but he wanted us to enjoy it as a hobby, and we did for as a kid, like whatever normal age it is for a kid to enjoy it, and up until like I don't know, sometime in middle school, high school, and then we stopped. Uh, but yeah, like I could see the importance. So you didn't have like a kind of like a list what he was doing t-ball that all right, if that fails, we got to get him into this
No.
sport.
Oh, no.
See, my brother, he loves baseball, so he already has it in his head that when he has a kid, he's gonna try to get him into baseball. But he did say like he has to like a sport, and he's gonna try for baseball. But if he doesn't do baseball, then he'll try to do something else like football. Or
Right.
he has a list kind
Sure.
of thing. So you didn't have that kind of thing.
No.
But you lucked out. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we did. Well, I mean, he's going to do what he wanted to do. He was tiring of baseball, and it showed when he played baseball. So there was no point in keeping him in it if he didn't want to be in it.
Yeah.
And he decided he wanted to do Taekwondo, and man, he went at that and really did well. So,
What did you do when you were growing up?
athletically,
Yeah.
is that? I played my first year in high school. I actually played football,
Nice.
and it wasn't because I wanted to.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't want to. I didn't know anything about football. All of the kids, most of the kids on the football team had gone to parochial grade schools, and they knew each other, and they had played on the football teams, the little teams, together. And I had not. I'd been in a public school system, and I did not play football up till that point. But my father says, well, son, you got to get involved in something, You got to be a man, that mentality. Try football, okay? I played football for 1 year, my freshman year. I hated it.
No.
I didn't know any of the plays and everything, and I was kind of, nobody knew who I was. So they really didn't care. I did make a touchdown once. I made about a 5-yard touchdown,
but you still didn't like football.
But I didn't like it. And excuse me, I did enjoy running because when I was in grade school, I did some track running, the half-mile distance running. And so I decided, well, in lieu of football, I'll run cross country. And so I did. And that was it. That was my thing.
There you go.
Distance running. And then when I got into track, and then I did wrestling during the interim because I didn't play basketball. I was too short anyway. But so it was mostly running. And I kept that up all the way through college, the 10Ks, the marathons.
Nice.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was later on that I got into the kayaking, all that I tried to get Junior interested in. He didn't really care about it.
Dude, kayaking is so underrated. Like, I love kayaking.
It's a lot of fun, man.
It is.
Especially if you're into the water sports, getting out on the lake.
Man, I've never even done it as a sport, but I'll be down to do it. But there's just something so peaceful about kayaking.
It really
man.
is.
It
is.
I remember the first time I saw a kayak. It's when we were living here in Georgia, and just one day, forgot where we were going, but we were just driving. I'm just looking outside the window, and then I see a kayak for the first time in my life. I didn't know what this thing was, but I just see this guy by himself, just in the water, like in the open lake. And as a kid, I think it's huge, and I'm just like, what is this magical thing? Like, he's by himself, no one around him, and he's just paddling along. I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever.
It is. It's a peaceful, serene
Oh, it was so
activity.
peaceful. And
Yeah.
then one time, we got the group. It was Mike, Zach, my brother, and I, and we all got 4 kayaks. It was Zach's family. We all got our own kayaks. Went out to the lake, and we just had a really grand time. And it was so fun. And again, peaceful. It's just like it's so underrated. People don't think about that.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun sport. It really is relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I want to do that as a sport. I'd probably be bad at it, but I want to do it.
Well, we got plenty of them. We've got 3 of them in the garage.
Nice.
Canoe. So
Oh man,
if you ever want to use them, just
I'll take you up on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, because
you're close enough to the lake.
yeah,
So
it's right there. Oh man. So, no, we almost did an hour, and so that was really awesome. So last question, and yeah, if you wanted to add anything more to, so we kind of touched on this, but what advice would you give to any young men and women that are about to, be parents and stuff, right? Right before. What advice would you probably give?
oops.
It's all good.
Let me turn that off. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Advice about having a child or raising one, or
Yeah, all the above.
Um,
Like if some besides Junior, if somebody were to come up to you, man or woman, hey, Mr. Donisi, I'm thinking about having a kid. We haven't had one yet, but what advice would you give me?
be sure that you're ready to give a full-time commitment to the child's well-being, because it's a lot of work. I mean, feeding, changing the diapers, clothing, everything. It's a big sacrifice. But of course, I mean, it's the natural course of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're meant to do. It's procreate. So be sure that you're really ready to do it and that you're committed to do it. After that, it's a matter of just playing it by ear. I mean, unless you're a complete idiot or a psychopath, you shouldn't have any problem, because you simply do what you think is right and what would be best for the well-being of the child,
Yeah.
both socially and physiologically. That's about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to vary from person to person. So,
Oh, well. Speaking of that, this just popped into my head. Because I was asking the moms this. And you're a very old school traditional guy, which I love. How do you feel about parenting books, like those, like baby raising books and stuff like that?
well, I didn't read them, but my wife did.
Yeah.
And she gleaned some good information out of them about basic things. But I don't know that I would. You can always do that, take everything to heart, because every once in a while, a situation will arise where it's not in there,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to wonder, well, what do I do now? But yeah, I see him as a good reference, as a guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, to use them.
Did your brothers or sisters have any kids, like, or were you the only one?
That had children?
Mhm.
No, they all had children before I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Are you
they
the
were.
baby in the family?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not the same.
Well, actually, my brother, I've got a younger brother and a sister, younger sister,
Okay.
but they all had children
Before
before
you.
I ever got married. So
Yeah.
all of them did. So
Yeah.
I was the last one to go that route and everything.
Okay, so like, did you ever have where as you're raising Junior, that you would go to them for any questions? It's like, hey, you've been a
No,
father.
actually, I never did. Never
No,
did.
really? You were just cocky, like, I got this.
Yeah. Well, I saw the way their kids were turning out. Sorry, guys. I don't.
Trash talk.
Yeah,
Nah.
I didn't mean that.
No.
But no, now that I never thought that. I never thought of doing that. it just didn't seem like something that was, I'm going to raise the kid the way I want to, and that's it. That's what it came down to, the way we want to, the wife and I. So
I will say, like, with that being said, and do you think, in a way, not saying that raising a child is easy, everybody's different and all that stuff, but in a way, do you think, like, uh just as long as you're committed to it, and you have a good wife, that in a way child raising is kind of easy? It's like, all right, you know uh, be disciplined when you have to be disciplined, and if the child is happy like that, finding taekwondo to encourage that. Like, in a way, do you think it's like going with the flow? Do you think in a way it's kind of easy, just as long as you have a good team?
yes, certainly it is. Yeah. I mean, because you have to depend on each other
Mm-hmm.
to pick up the slack where you can't. So, yeah, I think I am, as you say, old school in that. Yeah, I do believe that a female figure and a male figure, female and male. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
which doesn't mean the others won't work, but that yeah, you have to have both sets of modeling
Mm-hmm.
to develop a well-rounded child,
Yeah.
socially well-rounded child. Um, so, yeah, decisions are to be made by both people that have a stake in the situation, and I do think it's better to have two than one, than a single parent.
Yeah.
That's not to say single parent can't raise a child by
No.
no means, and
It
can't
just
raise
makes it a
one
little
well.
tougher, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. But
I have several single parent friends, and they've told me, yeah, like, I could see why it's important to have set figure in the household and stuff. And I mean, in a way, it's a common sense thing, but at the same time, I guess some people just don't really think about that. But I don't know.
well, it's as a species, that's the way we're wired. We aren't certain forms of birds or reptiles that once we have offspring, we're done, or once we fertilize an egg, we're done.
Hmm.
Um,
Some guys do, but I mean, that's
yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
yeah, but generally, as a species, we're kind of that's basically required. It
Hmm.
is. So, because we are such a social animal, it's very important. But I think it's better for a child. I do believe that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, I don't know.
No, I mean, hey, I think you put it well. And for anybody who does listen to this, it's not to say that, new school stuff can't work and that old school is always, but it set the foundation, for things like new school and stuff. But I don't think, there's anything wrong with the traditional sense, like, because it has to start from somewhere. And again, even as something as simple as technology, you don't you don't have to think about it. You don't have to rely on it too much, besides getting a baby monitor. But being there for the child, having a good team,
Hmm.
just, I think, from hearing from all the mothers talking about it, and now I'm getting the father's perspective. I'm kind of getting that sense, like, yeah, it's not so much about what you have; it's about who do you have around, and having a good team. So, yeah, unless you want to add to anything.
No, I think you covered quite a bit there, buddy.
You covered it.
Yeah.
This was you teaching me stuff. Well, Mr. Donisi, thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure, DJ.
Yeah. So before
Thanks for
you,
having me.
yeah. So before you go, though, so it's not Father's Day, but Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And so I got you something. It's not much.
Man, rad dad, cool. Dude.
Yeah, because you are a rad dad. Again, you were like a second dad to me, so I really appreciate.
Well, thank you,
Yeah,
man.
No, you've taught me a lot, and yeah, no, thank you so much. And
We're glad you're friends with Junior. We
Yeah.
really were, because we enjoy you guys. I mean, you guys have been just good kids, and you've been good with him.
Teaching he's been good to me, so
staying out of trouble.
Yeah,
not like the crew I ran with, but we really appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you. Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much. See ya.